time, it's exactly 3 after 10 o'clock South African time. We cross over to Karachi. I'm presuming it is Karachi in Pakistan. And we're going to be talking with Dr. Fowzia Siddiqui, the sister to the imprisoned Dr. Aafia Siddiqui. And the reason we're talking with her today is that it is the anniversary of her brutal imprisonment. Assalamu alaikum to you, Dr. Fowzia Siddiqui. I trust you and the family are all well, very especially the children of your dear sister, Dr. Aafia Siddiqui.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, I say by the grace of Allah.
Your volume, could you turn up your volume, please? We can't hear you.
Okay. Is it better now?
Much better, thank you.
Okay, I will do this.
Thank you indeed. More importantly, and very sadly, it is the anniversary of the imprisonment, the unfair, unjust, brutal imprisonment of your dear sister, Dr. Fowzia Siddiqui. How many years has it been? And I do know that the family, through your lawyers, are in contact from time to time. We also know she's been brutalized over the years. How is she doing now?
Well, it's a long story, but 23rd September is the day when Aafia was sentenced to 86 years in a solitary confinement in a medical center, an institute where all kinds of psychiatric, in the name of treatment, experimentation is done. It's known as the House of Horrors and the legalized torture chamber of the US. And Aafia was sentenced that in 2010. Before that, for 8 years, since 2003, she was abducted, and then she was in secret prisons, and then she was brought to the US after being shot and in a horrible, traumatized state, and brought before a magistrate who said that this is just not right and you should release her back to her country. But then Judge Berman comes in, who we now know is a very active Zionist judge and a liberal. So he took up the case, and even though the jury said that if anything did happen, because the evidence was so overwhelming showing Afia's innocence, that even if something did happen, it was not premeditated, and if even she tried to, it was an attempt. So that is all the jury had concluded, but the judge on his own decided to add on enhancements to add up to a sentence of 86 years without parole, without any kind of relief in a special administrative unit of FMC Carswell. So last year I had the opportunity of going and seeing that, and I still wish I hadn't seen it, because after that I have no peace. Every night I just dream of that horrible, horrible place. I mean, you
And I
see
do
horrible
remember,
things. Jay?
I do remember having having an interview with you regarding that visit to
Yes.
Aafia, and I do know back
Yes.
then you were horribly upset and traumatized
Yes.
by what you saw. You
Yes.
indicated to me at the time she was a mere shadow of herself. You didn't recognize her. Can I just ask this question, Dr. Fowzia, in case we have first-time listeners and are not aware of the Aafia Siddiqui case? What was she supposedly convicted of and thereby sentenced to in a jail, in a prison in the United States? And how did she land up there, having lived in Karachi, Pakistan?
So, in 2003, Afia was going with an education system, and she had a PhD from Brandeis on in education in cognitive neuroscience, and her thesis was learning through imitation and how to improve the learning in mentally um, subnormal children. So she had come up with this imitation thing, and I mean at that time it was a very new thing, but and it was interesting that Afia's thesis is actually, I found out now, is one of the bases of AI, which also learns
Wow.
through imitation, you know. And Afia is the one who separated the components of imitation in the human mind, which helped them create this whole AI thing. And since she was in this university, they did not want to give her that credit. That's one thing that, you know, came up now. I didn't know that before. But that aside, anyway, she was taking this thesis and this whole education program. That was her goal, was to improve the education system, because she believed that any change in the Islamic world is going to come through education. And it was her dream that she said that in 30 years, in less than 30 years, Muslims from the deserts of Arabia were ruling 3 continents. So we can do the same thing now. But we need to improve the education. And once our youth are educated, the education system is at par, then we will be not the third world, but the first world. Anyway, she was going to Islamabad from Karachi, and then she was abducted, and we never heard from her for 5 years. In 2008, when we did a million march, and tried to raise her and let no one forgets. And we were told that they're dead, that she is dead, the children are dead, and all of that. But it turned out that, she was alive, but she was in a worse than death place, being tortured in Bagram and other secret prisons, and her little children were taken away from her, and they were placed. Now we know that Mariam was placed in a Christian family to be raised to become a Christian white family, so she would have a better life. And Ahmed was placed in a juvenile prison where he was, being trained for God knows all kinds of horrible stuff. But that aside, when we raised the issue to a point that it became difficult to keep Apia a secret, they brought her out, they took her to Ghazni, and they shot her, and then planted like a bag and something and said that this was a suicide bomber, and we shot her. But the witnesses there had seen that this was just a woman who had absolutely nothing on her, and she was very, very sick and doped and drugged. And then they just flew her in that state, having been shot close range, 3 bullets through her abdomen and her chest. But somehow she survived that, and she lived. Allah kept her safe. They missed her heart. How they missed her heart, it's a miracle. But only to wake up to another nightmare. And then what they did is they said that she tried to shoot us. There were 6 American soldiers, and they said that Afia tried to shoot them. And that was the case against them, that she attempted, but no one was hurt, no one was that. So it was an attempt to kill them in a place that was not even in the US. And Afia is not a US citizen. So this, in Afia's case, every international law was broken. She was rendition, she was kidnapped, she was abducted, she was raped, she was tortured. Um, Her children were taken away from her. There's really, if you would say one individual has gone through a sexual assault, how damaged they would be, or if a mother's child is taken away from them, how horribly traumatized she would be, or if, a loved one's been kidnapped. Poor Afia alone has gone through each and every one of these. Imagine the trauma that she must have gone through. But regardless of all of that, the judge just changed the verdict and sentenced her for whatever reason, whatever his reasons were.
Okay, so Fowzia, tell me, it was the anniversary of her imprisonment, unjust sentence, so to speak. How did the family observe the anniversary in Pakistan? I understand lots of people, hundreds of people supported this march. Tell us about it.
Right. So in Pakistan, I think about 30 cities, there were protests and there were marches. Uh, and just reminding the government of Pakistan that the people of Pakistan have not forgotten and that they insist because this year the anniversary falls at the same time as the Prime Minister of Pakistan is going to the US at the United Nations General Assembly meeting and the Human Rights Convention. And so this was also aimed to pressurize and to tell him basically that, you speak up for Afia, the whole nation stands behind you. The major cities and a lot of the main roads entering into them, and especially Islamabad, was blocked with double containers, and all the roads were blocked so as to deter people from entering into any of these, which was, we just wanted our voice heard. That's all. That the prime minister hears that and he goes and he speaks about it. I mean, every time someone from Pakistan goes to the US, they ask for their person that Pakistan has Dr. Shakil Afridi. So when they ask for that, at least for once, you ask for your daughter.
Mm,
So
absolutely.
you know so those were the demands that we had, and we have filed we have filed a clemency petition, and we wanted the government of Pakistan to file in an amicus brief or a letter of support for the clemency to President Biden. And when the prime minister, as a chief executive to chief executive, raises this issue and gives him the letter with a delegation, and the petition is there, so it is brought in front of him, and the importance of it is also highlighted, just like any sovereign country would do for any citizen.
Absolutely. Let's wrap up then. I do know you visited your dear sister last year, and I know from what you shared with me in that interview, you were very, very traumatized. Have you heard since? What has the lawyer been saying about her condition? Is there any
Well,
improvement?
actually, there's worsening. I think it so happened is like the first day I met her, and compared to the last day, obviously she had improved. I mean, I got her commissary, I got her tea and access to tea. So the last day, she actually said that she had a cup of tea, and she was she was much better. And in that way, she actually was talking in a more coherent and logical manner, and she remembered things that I think they did not want her to remember. And so now they started, giving her shocks and shots and stuff like that, and took away her commissary again, and this made things very difficult. And when I went again to meet with her, the first day they said that they can't find the key
Sure.
to the
Yes, you did
visiting
share.
room.
Yes, you did share that with us in the previous interview. But
Yes.
via her lawyers, have you heard if there's been an improvement in her condition?
From what I heard last, which was I think September 6th or so, when Clive met with Afia, he said it was a very, very difficult meeting. He was, she was so traumatized, and she seemed much more frail, and her the marks on her, the trauma marks, and that they were more visible and seemed they were new ones, and She lost more teeth and just has only 9 teeth left dangling. So
Gosh,
over a year, they have really hyped up the trauma that they were giving her and the abuse that they were doing. And I think that's probably because she did recall and she did find the courage to complain to the lawyer. And so we have filed a lawsuit in Texas against the prison.
Dr. Fowzia Siddiqui, that's all the time we have left for this interview, but undoubtedly strength, love, and du'as to your family, and very especially for Aafia Siddiqui. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala heal her, and may she be reunited with her loved ones. Thank you for talking with us. Till the next time, as always, Assalamu alaikum to you.
Walaikum assalam, and thank you very much for having me.
And on that heartbreaking story of on Aafia Siddiqui, Dr. Aafia Siddiqui, she obviously has been unjustly jailed in an American prison. She's been sentenced to 86 years. For crimes that she's not even aware of. I think we brought you the story over the years, so you should be familiar with that horrific story and what this family and their loved one, Aafia, has been put through. Our duas for the family and to Aafia, inshallah, until you and I get together again tomorrow morning at the same time as always. Take care, be safe, and assalamu alaikum.